Hi, I'm Stephanie Willis, an esthetician for 22 years. Today, we're going to talk about self-care and more of the physical aspect of it. We're providers and we have a lot of things that we are doing physically with our clients. And so let's just kind of dive into how we can talk about taking better care and making sure we don't get any type of body burnout.
Absolutely. My name is Tamara Blankenship, and I am more in the mental health world. I focus on communication and strength building through behavior. So, helping people understand how to not be reactive when behavior is thrown in their face, if you will, and how to stay neutral. So, especially when we're dealing with clients who may be coming in with a bad attitude or a challenging day, and how do we navigate that more effectively? As far as physical health and literally looking at understanding how to, modify our behavior, looking forward to sharing with you a little bit more about how to understand your own personal resistance along with that physical intensity.
Yeah, so it's really important that when we're working on our clients that we're, making sure we're being aware of where our body is and movements that we do, maybe the placement of some of the, our trays or our carts within the room and knowing like I know for me I'm doing this. I'm always turning to the left constantly the entire day. And so maybe I need to put some of the things on the cart on my right so that I'm also turning to my right and not just
That's a
constantly going.
great point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I would think that that is like muscle memory, right? We get into the pattern of recognizing our tendencies, right? And looking for those opportunities to mess up with, our nervous system, even doing something different to kind of create more play in our workspace. I think that's a
Yeah.
great
And even
suggestion.
just doing that, I was like, ooh, I can feel that. It's kind of tight.
Pinch the
Something,
muscle. Mhm.
yeah, something really important that I've done in the past. I was afraid to ask the client, like, hey, move back towards me. And so I would find myself reaching over too much. And then I'm like, I can barely reach them. And so it's really important to make sure, I mean, they don't know where to sit. They don't know if where your pillow is or the adjustment. So I actually just switched out the bed in my room and I've been telling them, hey, if you want to, like, let me know, do you want your legs up more? Do you need a pillow? Making sure they're comfortable to start off because they might be kind of in the same place where they're like, I don't want to ask for too much. And sometimes I'll say, oh, do you mind this? They're like, I'm not trying to be difficult. I'm like, oh, not at all. Like, I want them to feel comfortable. So I'm like, can I help you? Can I get you some water? Do you want, I have a bed warmer on my bed. Do you want the bed warmer on? Because I had a elderly client yesterday and she's like, my back's really sore. And I said, I know it's getting kind of warm here, but would you like the bed warmer on? It might feel kind of nice and soothing. And she said, actually, that would be great. It's just making people feel comfortable as well as ourselves too.
Right. So important, right? Getting a chance to kind of make sure that communication and effectiveness, like, gives each other permission to communicate what's uncomfortable. I think when you set the tone like that, it benefits everyone involved. It's such a great way to approach it.
Yeah,
Do
right
you
on.
find, when you are specifically in a space where you're kind of at a routine, you're used to the flow of things, and you have a customer who comes in who's new to the practice or never has had any facial or any kind of procedure done. Do you find that that takes extra time out of the consultation, that you feel stressed or now rushed to kind of get to the actual process, or do you feel like it's not that intense?
Sometimes it does because, but I always, if they're new, I try to leave extra time for consultation. So that way we can set up proper expectations. And then I have plenty of time to go ahead and decide which treatment and explain it to them. So yeah, if they're brand new, I definitely need extra time. And sometimes it goes beyond that. And I don't like to rush ever. So sometimes my
Right.
next will have to wait a few extra minutes. And typically they don't mind because they know that I take my time with people and I give everyone like 100%. So yeah, with that, it gets to be a little bit, it's tricky because you never know how much time it's going to take.
Right. I was wondering about that. Like, how do you manage your time effectively if there's a lot of intensity, right? And just that flow of the practice itself. So I was even thinking when I asked that question, the first thing I was thinking is tension in the body, right? Because you're now feeling the sense of rush or sense of urgency or needing to communicate effectively, but you're also managing a timeline where there's maybe a lot of clients in in that schedule for the day. So I would think that that intensity would also creep into your body posture, just your ability unconsciously to just heighten up and hurry, that intensity in the body. So I know you and I had spoken once before about like doing physical exercises, like where you stretch your hands out to kind of open up your hands a little bit better, or just even stretching the arms. Another thing that I found very beneficial, I sit a lot throughout the day and have a tendency to kind of lean forward because I'm listening to my client. And so it can also alter my head position. I know you guys are probably leaning physically over and your arms are lurched over. There's on Amazon, they have those great little shoulder straps that can pull your arms back. So maybe, getting into the habit or a practice of having something that pushes you back in the opposite direction. We're also all driving all day long. We're crunched, like pushing ourselves forward. So if you don't have a really great gym practice or physical fitness or maybe yoga or something in your life, definitely can cause some intensity in the body. And I would think it'd be very important to prioritize some balance to counteract to the intensity that you experience in your workday. So do you have any kind of physical activities that you use that keep you balanced in all of that?
Yes, so it's very important that at the end of the day, and some days, obviously, depending on what I'm doing, my back will hurt. Some days I don't have any pain. And it's funny because I just assumed that that was normal with this type of job, but it's not. I saw this great osteopath. They actually call him like this miracle doctor, and I've sent clients to him, and he's truly incredible. But he's like, no, that's not normal. You're not supposed to have pain just because you're doing a repeated exercise. There is some type of something is off in the body, and that needs to get fixed. And so the point is the sooner you notice an imbalance and you get it adjusted and fixed, the better, because then your body doesn't compensate. So the minute you start feeling like, oh, I'm getting like whatever it is, it's important to go see someone that you trust right away. So that way you don't keep, having more imbalances and you just get it fixed and get over with. But yeah, I've found myself, like you say, when people are rushing you, I'm like, oh, that's like the worst thing. What I'm doing is like I kind of have my flow and they're like, hey, I have to be out of here by this time. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And then they're like, do I have enough time? And I'm like, I don't know. What time is it? Like it gets me really frazzled. So that's almost
Right.
the worst thing someone could do is come in and tell me they have to be out by a certain time. And I do have appointments, so I know what time, but I'm like, wait, what time was your original end time? So it just kind of gets me a little bit.
Frazzles you. Yeah. It can frazzle anybody, I would assume. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
It's
but
really interesting.
oh,
Yeah.
sorry. At
No, go
least by
ahead.
the end of the day, to do the opposite movement. So if you've got those roller balls, or I have like a big round loop, to at least go back and forth on that for like, I don't know, 30 seconds. It doesn't have to be long, but at least to just kind of undo the rounding and go backwards, just to kind of stretch out is what I try to do, or like at least a yoga
Yeah.
class once a week.
Yeah. The big thing right now is tech neck because everyone's looking down at their cell phones, right? And they're trying to like offset that. I've actually been seeing a chiropractor. I got in a huge car wreck a couple of years back, and because of that, I've actually taken the curve out of my neck and I've actually caused my neck to turn the opposite direction. And the process has been quite interesting. So it's not always just work related. Sometimes it's external, something that came from outside of work that you didn't even realize was going to impact you to this level. It's been 3 years. I didn't realize that now it's going to show up. And I thought after the immediate wreck, everything felt okay. I'm good. We're fine. No, it was 3 years later, and I'm now dealing with that issue. So I do think there's a little bit of things to recognize that, you may not know, you may think it's the way you're doing something at the office or holding your body, and it might actually be a past trauma that's causing more impact. And to even get a chiropractor or someone, and not everyone's big fans of chiropractic, I get it, but just something that's causing your body to work in the opposite direction or support it as you're navigating things. Because there's bone and then there's muscle, right? So muscle memory and those kinds of things. So if you happen to work out crazy at the gym like I do and weight train and go through that process, you're going to feel those injuries a lot quicker. And so I think it's important to recognize when we put the body in that heightened state. Like you said, it shouldn't necessarily cause trauma, but it may be an indication of something out of balance. And to have the courage to actually pursue that so you create balance for yourself so you can enjoy your career longer and
Yes,
enjoy that life.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah, that preventative is great, making sure. I know I had a dental hygienist, and she was like, I get a massage every single week. So I thought that I was like, wow, that's a lot, but that's great that you make time to do that. And they're really over people, even more so than myself, I feel like, or anyone else that's in my industry.
Tight little working spaces. They have really, really
Yeah.
intensities. Yeah.
Was really like happy to hear that she took time to make sure she doesn't get her body worn down, and make sure to do self-care, take that little break as well.
Hugely important. Like the decompression that even happens when you're in a massage, you're not thinking, supposedly, if you're doing really good. You're actually allowing yourself to even emotionally check out and just serve yourself, you know? I do think there's a lot of stigma around doing self-care, like especially if you're a parent, we have a lot of fear around taking time away from the family or other obligations and responsibilities, and we can put ourselves into trouble. So I do know we're going to talk about that eventually, where we talk about time management and understanding to prioritize that. So I do want to save that for another topic, but also to recognize that that shame and guilt, we hold that tension and we don't allow ourselves to do those things. And so it's super important, I think, to acknowledge that doing those things is actually feeding back to the family and providing longevity for yourself. Also, I do think it's a very big important thing to remember that if we are proactive, we are going to spend less time in pain, which is always a benefit. But also, when we're in pain, we have longer periods we're out of work because we can't physically work. So even think of it as an investment into the longevity of your career because you're being proactive. Maybe that 1 hour could save you maybe 4 months of being in pain. So it could be, just recognizing placement of self-care and knowing that the value of taking the time out to manage your physical self-care is just as much as an importance as the mental. So even working with a counselor, if you're having some emotional issues at work, like we talked about last week, we don't want to pour into our clients our anguish and our disconnection because we're feeling so intensely stressed. Our touch gets more intense, our tempers get shortened, and we don't even realize we're doing it because we're so in the script of that behavior. We're not recognizing, we're translating that into our experience. So managing all these things are so important.
Absolutely. Yeah, I was going to say with the pain element. So if you are doing this and you are in pain, it does affect our mood, and it does affect like our energy and all of that. So you end up being more tired towards the end of the day, maybe a little more short-tempered. So yeah, it's very important to, when you start noticing that, like, oh my gosh, okay, I need to make sure I get in to see somebody. Usually referrals are great, find someone that, I don't like to complain to my clients like, oh, my back hurts today. I would never tell them that. But there was a day where I had a crick, and I was like, I am moving a little slower. I do have a crick. And then that was the end of it, but I still did everything, as I normally would. But yeah, just getting a referral and getting on top of it right away. That way you don't have any long-term issues, and it doesn't affect everything around you. Because it does for me when I've got a headache. I'm kind of tend to be a little more grumpy, and I'm tired because I'm in pain and that type of thing. So yeah, really important to get that addressed sooner than later.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think we have to remove the limiting belief that we can do it all
Mhm.
and do it all well, because I think that we're not modifying to accept the fact that there is only a bandwidth of so much time where we can optimize that performance for that long. And how do you navigate that differently? Like I was even sharing with you earlier about the being in a car wreck and having this past trauma. Sitting for long periods of time is painful, as we both know. In our industries, we sit for long periods, and you shorten your hamstrings, you shorten other muscles because you're not able to stand up. So moving through things and trying to create a habit of like forward folds or something like that, even between clients, is such a great practice. Yeah.
Absolutely. All
So
right.
awesome. So I think if anybody has any questions or anything specific you would like to address more in this topic, we'd be more than happy to expand on it. And just to go a little bit deeper about some things. So we're going to next talk about time management. So next week please join us on talking about how to manage our busy time schedules and create a little more process. Stephanie, would you like to share a little bit more about opportunities about how to even promote and get more clients? I know that that's kind of a very big element to what we're discussing.
Yes, so I wanted to share about aestheticprovider.com. It's a platform I created, very similar to like a Yelp or Real Self, but it's exclusive for estheticians, nurse injectors, laser techs, permanent makeup artists, actual makeup artists. And basically, you go on, you set up a profile, you put in your bio, you tag all of the procedures and offerings that you have. And it really makes it a great and easy space for people to come and find you, whatever state you may be in or city. Helps for even people that are traveling or that have summer homes in other places. They're looking for the same type of treatments. So if you want to, also, I have a blog, so you can go on and you can request to be a part of the blog and share some of your information. Just get you more exposure, more networking. All of it's very helpful to be seen and get more clients.
So it's special to create a community where you can actually share information and hopefully share referrals so that if somebody needs a little extra support outside of something you can do, how fun is it that you have that space to offer and
Yes,
be that expert? All
yes, for
right.
sure.
Thank you so much for joining us today. And again, so grateful to spend a little more time and sharing some knowledge. Thank you, Stephanie, for allowing me to be a part of this network community with you. I'm so grateful.
Yes, thank you for being here.